What a wonderful day in the world of real estate. This is a very interesting time. And actually, a member from 6 and 12 passed away this past weekend, Gene Anderson. And he and I thought he was the sweetest person in the world. We were at the Realtor Conference and Expo in November. Um, we I don't think anyone really knew what he was going through, but he sent me a email on Saturday that said that he was in home hospice because he had stage 4 cancer and he passed away the next day. And when he sent me the email, because I went back to his Facebook page to see had he posted anything, and the last post he had was from the Realtor Conference and Expo. And so a person could say stage 4 cancer, but you still holding out hope, right? Like, I'm not thinking it's tomorrow. And when we were at the Realtor Conference and Expo, he took pictures with everyone. He was the same person he had always been. And I say that to say, because two of the words that I'm practicing now are grace and patience, because you never know what another person is going through, but you also need to have grace and patience with yourself, as well as you should have grace and patience with others. So Gene will be dearly missed. He was an absolute joy. He was a hard worker. He was committed to the world of real estate. He was committed to the Residential Real Estate Council. But literally, if you looked at him, he looked as healthy as he's always looked. And so you never know what another person is going through. And I'm elated to have had the opportunity to spend time with him, to have all these selfies of us smiling with masks, without masks, in Lake Tahoe, on Zoom calls, in San Diego, in Chicago. And so, grace and patience. So we got us a Rookie of the Year candidate on here who has experienced great success, right? And her posts consistently touch me because of basically overcoming obstacles, right? And so, Tiffany, I want you to tell people just a little bit about yourself, right? Because I think, according to your post, the last couple of years have been a whirlwind for you, but you learning yourself, trusting yourself, and investing in yourself. And so I don't know if everyone has seen what Sue, thank you, but it's a loss to the world of real estate and to the Residential Real Estate Council. Yeah. If you could share, one, where you are now in regards to being with Coldwell Banker and your great success, but what led up to that? Because you've had two really great posts recently that talk about the last 5 years.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to be here. It's been an interesting ride, to say the least. I transitioned from corporate in 2018 after having a traumatic family experience that kind of changed my life and kind of made me kind of regroup to figure out what the priorities look like. I'm now a widower mom of 3, single mom, 3 girls, 7, 8, and 19. And back then they were 5, 4, and 16. So it was trying to figure out, how do I transition from from corporate into something that would give me the option to provide a solid income and still be home with them. And I have had some favor. Like, when you say grace, you're speaking to my inner man. Like, I have had to have a lot of grace with myself, a lot of resilience for some of the obstacles I've had to overcome, and have seen some tremendous favor from what I feel. I've always had high expectations, but I think I've exceeded my own expectations this year. So I'm grateful.
Well, congratulations on exceeding your own expectations. And in exceeding your own expectations, what has happened in the past 12 months in regards to your business and your life?
Sure. So I sold my first piece of real estate in February of 2021. I had been an investor for quite some time. Bought my first piece of real estate at 24, but I sold my first piece of real estate in February. And since then, I've closed just over 30 transactions. I've had 7 of those transactions this month. So that's probably a little bit more than what I expected. I originally had a goal to do 24 houses, and that sounded like well, where am I going to get 24 buyers? Or where am I I didn't even know how to get a listing or what to do. And yeah, I've closed over 30 transactions. So I'm grateful.
Congratulations. And look, there is a great feeling of closing out the year with a bang to have money to invest in the next year. Yes. So congratulations. Now you sent me over a list of questions. I'm going to let you read them in order because I said, woo, baby, bye. She got a whole list of stuff. Look, I had to go get myself ready.
Look, I wasn't sure. You say, put me in the hot seat. I like to be prepared. I'm one of those, like, do my research, read up. Like I watched you 10 years ago when I was trying to find out where to buy, what to buy. I've been following you for a long time. Wow. So to get your message, it was like, okay, God, I received. Well, let me bring my A game so I can learn what I need to learn in this conversation.
Well, come on, let's get it going. Because I was like, oh, she had sent me. I got the list. Okay, let's go with it.
All right. So my first question was, what would you tell your younger self about real estate and why?
So what's kind of funny, you bought your first property at the same age that I purchased my first property. So the first property I purchased was 609 East 60th Street. I was 24 years old. I was just told that I needed to buy real estate. What I would have told my younger self is it's not one size fits all. Yeah. But I don't think you understand that until you're actually in the world of real estate. Mm-hmm. To know that you could be an investor, or you could be a property manager, or you can flip houses, mm-hmm. or you could go into the appraisal side, or the home inspection side, or the loan originating side. I think that comes later. Real estate is an industry that every pre-license course, everything that introduces us to this industry never tells it all.
Facts.
Right. It's always like a look, kind of scratch the surface, mm-hmm. and no one really understands the depth. Right. Mm-hmm. So what I decided to do was, because I knew I did not know, mm-hmm. was I instantly started to take classes, designations and certifications, because I knew what I was getting. It had to be more. But let me take you back to my first job in real estate. I was a loan originator, mm-hmm. and I had saw that they had the CRMS, which is the Certified Residential Mortgage Specialist course. Mm-hmm. I went to an Illinois Association Mortgage Broker program, mm-hmm. and I identified every CRMS in that room because I needed to work with their company because they believed in education. Mm-hmm. So what I did tell myself, and I've always been honest with myself, which I don't necessarily think as an industry we are this level of honest. I accept the fact that I know I don't know.
Sure.
And that I need to keep on self-educating myself in the process to have a better understanding. And it's okay to learn from multiple people. So I don't think I would have told myself anything different. Mm-hmm. than the advice I was consistently giving myself, because it's still the same advice that I'm following now. And what made me even tell myself that advice, I had my first restaurant. I was a junior in college, and that restaurant failed. Now I had another successful business, the concession business. And so it was okay for my restaurant to fail because I had another successful business at the time. But what I told myself then was, Marky, clearly you don't know what it is you think you know. You need to go back to school. And I went back and got my master's degree because my first restaurant failed.
Okay. Being a lifelong learner is super important. So that's good for people to hear.
And Monica Neubauer said something. It wasn't just being a lifelong learner. She said being a big learner. So I get excited every single day from learning something new. It's like my, whatever somebody else's drug is, learning is my drug, because I'm literally running around smiling, saying to myself, oh yeah, this is what we gonna do now. And this is every single day. And so whatever other people, that feeling, that euphoria, that's what I'm getting from education.
Yeah. I feel that every time I close.
Oh, and let me tell you this, that feeling don't change. Okay. So every time you get a check. Now, what I have explained to Skylar is that, because he had a deal the other day, and just to give you a piece of advice, because I don't know if you ran into this situation yet. So he had a condo, he's representing the buyer. And he thought that the listing agent was taking her time to get him the condo docs. So I said, well, go back, see if there are other units in that building on the market, because the unit his client was buying happened to belong to the president of the condo association. When the president of the condo association don't have condo docs for you, to me, it's a problem.
That's a concern. Yes.
Right. I said, go see if there's another unit or other units in that building on the market, and reach out to those listing agents to see if they have the documents and if they're also having a problem. Lo and behold, the seller of this unit was the issue for the entire building, right? Wow. So they've canceled the deal. But what I explained to Skylar was every time it looked like a deal is going to fall, it becomes your responsibility to go get 2 deals to replace it. Yes. So you are always staying ahead.
Yes, I agree. And I haven't always been successful in that, but building up the momentum and having that pipeline, I probably have another 11 in the pipeline right now. And I'm grateful and praying that those will close. If I lose one, I hope to pick one up. So it'll work.
Claim it. Just speak it like, oh, I'm going to go get mad enough.
Absolutely.
Get so outraged by the process, the unmitigated goal, to go get 2 more deals. And that's, I just pump. Oh, I'm mad. No, you might not really be mad. Let me go get these 2 other deals.
You better closing. Yes. That's me in the morning. Like, what's going? What's on the board? What we doing? Like, yeah. My baby's like, who are you talking to, Mom? I'm like, I'm talking to myself. This is how we get together. Yeah. So tell me, like, when you were thinking about, like, one of my questions was like, how do you scale and how do you start a team, right? I've heard you talk about your team and lead generation and scaling. How did you do that? Like, put that in layman terms for all of us, not just this is the big idea.
One, it starts with a business plan. And so when I'm starting to look at the success of everybody around me, one, a business plan, that business plan, you create a marketing plan. The marketing plan should include social media and technology. A lot of times, because we are a female-dominated industry, we don't dream big enough because we're scared of our own success, right? So when I think about scaling, so my very first year selling real estate, I did $12 million in volume. Okay. Now, the reason I did $12 million in volume, which it hit me the other day, right? I did have a business plan. But the reason I had a business plan, I came into real estate in 99 as a loan originator. I was moonlighting as a loan originator, a pharmaceutical sales rep who had earned her broker's license.
Okay.
But I wasn't doing anything with the broker's license. Okay. So when I decide that I absolutely hate pharmaceutical sales and I want to quit, I come to my mother and I'm like, Ma, I hate farm sales. I want to quit. I said, but who quits as a single unwedded mother? They good 6-figure job, right? So I'm earning 6 figures. Farm sales, I have a company car. I have a $40,000 a year expense allowance. Great American Express swipe every freaking where, right? I'm like, and a bonus. I said, like,
I can relate.
God. I'm like, this is a dumb process. Marky, you sure you want to do this? And my mother said, Marky, just like you got this job with no pharmaceutical sales experience, you can go get another. And she looked at me and she leaned up. She said, quit. Right.
I like
and so I knew that in order to quit my job as a unwedded mother, I needed to take care of Skylar in a manner that he had become accustomed to, and that I could not just quit. So I had the business plan. I had a nice little nest egg in my 401k because for the 2 years I was at Pfizer, I did 15% contribution day one and they matched, right? So I knew I could pull my money to start my company. But when I left, when I tell you I had a solid, bona fide business plan, and you start with the end in mind, and you only do the things that get you to the end. So I didn't buy a car for 10 years. And I am the person who every 2 years, I was hopping into a new lease every 2 years, right? And when it came time for Skylar to go to college, because I had lost all his money in the real estate crash for him to go to college, I dare not buy a new car until I get him through college.
Sure.
To go buy a new car is not staying on track with the long-term plan. And that was for me to have a degree that hangs on my wall from Howard University, right?
Mission accomplished.
Right. No matter how the car looked, no matter how the car rolled. So then by the time he graduated from college, I'm used to not having a car note, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, go get a car. And then he totals my car one day driving it, right? So we have to be so laser beam focused that it's always on that end goal, right? Sure. No matter what the uncomfort or, comfortability that comes with that feeling. But it's going to be the fact that you have this business plan. It's the fact that you are leveraging your time. So here's the next thing, moving from 5 million to 15 million. I'm gonna give you my example. When I was originating loans, my goal was still to make the same amount of money. I had a goal, $240,000. That was how much I wanted to earn in 2004. Okay. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, based on this productivity, I'm not going to have time to spend with Skylar. Hence the pivot into the world of real estate.
Okay.
Because I was simply looking at the numbers. Either I can do so many loans and based on the basis point and the split, this is how much I would bring home per transaction. Mm-hmm. Or I got this broker's license I've never used. I could use it. And based on what I'm seeing as compensation and me owning my own company, I can make 2 times more money or net to me per transaction. Marky, forget originating loans and go sell these houses.
Makes sense.
So sometimes scaling from 5 to 15 doesn't take more effort. It takes more strategy.
Okay.
So when you're looking at, if you go into home snapping, you plot everywhere that you sold real estate. Because oftentimes, and this might not be true for you, but oftentimes in our first couple of years of real estate, we're going anywhere for a deal. Okay. When you start looking at it, you want to use Remind, which we did not have as a tool then. You want to use InfoSpark. You want to know where the holes in the market, but you want to think about focusing your attention on which community, 3 factors I look at, which community has the fastest rate of sale at the highest price point with the fewest barriers to entry. And when I say fewer barriers to entry, I want you to take a look at who you are as a person and understand that Chicago is economically and racially segregated. Not that you're not doing business with everybody. It comes down to a question is who's willing to do business with you and how long will it take you to cultivate those new relationships?
Sure.
Okay. And taking those things in mind, I decided that I would focus at that time on the Bronzeville, North Kenwood, Woodlawn area, because even then, as now, they still had the fastest rate of sale at the highest price point. It was just more condos. If we were to go back to that 2004 to 2007 corridor. So it's about being more strategic. I don't ever want to tell you got to work harder because you don't.
Smart, not hard.
Smart, not hard. And there's a gentleman named Mario Greco. Mario Greco's an attorney. Within 3 years of him coming into the world of real estate, he was doing $50 million plus in sales because he had a network and he became strategic about that network. So if you start looking at price points and you doing, 200,000, the question is, how do you get to 400,000? Or how do you double that and get to 500,000? Instantly, you've doubled your price point without doing more work.
Sure. I like that.
So scaling is about being more strategic and leveraging your time, not doing more work or driving all around the world.
Yeah, I've recently transitioned because when I first started and affiliated with Coldwell Banker, I affiliated at Hyde Park. And I live in the Homewood Flossmoor area. So I transitioned to Oak Lawn so that I can have that bubble and be more strategic because I can do more in less time when I'm cutting down my travel. So then I started to refer out the business. That's how I was able to get more done by, enlisting others to help me get it done. So, yeah.
And referral income is a beautiful thing. I can live off of my referral income.
That's nice.
That's all it's about. And now it's about, how do I take that money and invest it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The most strategic way.
Yeah, high impact. Speaking of that, when I got a couple questions here, we were talking about kind of best practices and implementing. I'll skip that one. One of the things that I'm interested in is joining a real estate board and getting more involved in the industry. How did you know where to start? Like, there's so many options. I'm on number 4. There's so many options. Where do you go?
Honestly, I didn't know where to get started. I've always been a volunteer. I come from a volunteering family. The reason is my son is 4th generation Divine 9. So my grandparents' siblings and my grandparents were volunteers, right? My parents were volunteers. I'm a volunteer. I raised a volunteer. When I first became a Realtor member, I received an email from the Chicago Association of Realtors.
Okay.
They were doing a call for the board of directors. When I looked at the list of things on the list, I knew that I met every last one of those criteria. I send over my packet. They interview me, but I don't get on the board. Okay. So mind you, I came out for the board of directors in 2004. I became a Realtor member in 2003. So that's how bold and I did. One, I ain't know no better. Let me just let you know, I did not know any better. Now, my feelings was a little hurt because I met all the conditions. Actually, I exceeded a lot of the conditions. I went back out for the board of directors again in 2005. They didn't put me on the board in 2005. Now I'm hot. I'm mad, right? And one is because Dennis White beat me out for the board position for the region I was going out for. Now, let me just tell you who Dennis White is. He's appointed to this $3 billion committee by Lori Lightfoot. So he ain't no muckety muck. But I didn't care nothing about that, right?
My name Marky, pick me.
Forget little short Dennis, right? And I mess with Dennis every time I see him about it. And we cool, right? So I take, and this is what I would recommend you do. I take Frank Williams out. Because I knew who he was. I was seeing him in every, he was part of nominating. Because he need to explain to me why they ain't put me on this board. And he broke it down to me. He told me what I needed to do, how I needed to do it. And if I wanted to do it, he would support me. So my first board position in the world of real estate is with the 9th largest real estate board. Because in 2006, when I came back out, I was put on the board. But let me tell you what Frank told me. Frank told me, Marky, I need you to volunteer more to be able to volunteer at that level. And you need to do these other committees. So when we're in nominating and I'm talking about you, everybody can put a face with the name, right? And so once you volunteer for, the 9th largest real estate board in the country, you come to understand there's a difference between boards. There are some boards that all of the members, the board members, do all of the work. There are other boards where you have essentially staff liaisons that do the work and make you look good. You make all these decisions for them to go do all this work, right? You show up and you look good. And so what I've come to realize is I like serving on boards that have staff support. Okay. And there's some boards, not to mention, that I've stepped down from 3 times because people need to respect volunteers' time. At the moment you late for your committee, your board meetings, Marky Lemons is not volunteering with you because I don't do that.
Exactly.
Because I was spoiled. So what I would say is understand how much time, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? and then reach out to someone from that board, preferably to someone who you can identify with. Maybe y'all go to church together, but you've done a little research, because I definitely reached out to Frank, because one, his magnet is on the wall at Limbs, and I knew at every nominating 2004, 2005, and 2006, Frank was sitting in there. Now, let me tell you how I knew I was getting on the board. I knew I was getting on the board, not because of Frank, but when I went to exit my interview, John Kamisic, who at that time he's past president for CAR, but also a past state president, he got up to walk me to the door, and he says, "Marky, I see all the work you have been doing."
Fair enough.
I said, "Oh, I'm on this board." And then I get a call that night from Ginger Downs, who at the time was the CEO. But I want you to be aim higher than what you think you can do first. And the question is really, how can you leverage this? So for me, I give a lot, not only to my board, I just give a lot. That's what I like to do. I like volunteering. And if I can't give you the best of me, I'm not going to volunteer. Sure. Here would be the example. I took a 5-year break from high-level volunteering because it meant nothing to me to volunteer if I could not get Skylar through college. And the last thing I wanted was my baby to call me and him to need money for anything. And I got to hum and ha and don't know where it's going to come from. Exactly. That wasn't the feeling I wanted as a parent. Okay. So I said, look, because I understood the cycle by this point. I'm like, you understand that they're getting ready to do nominating for next year. Do not put your application in for anything this year, because you clear what you're getting ready to do for the next 4 years, right? So you have to stop like a year in advance. And then when he made it to his senior year, and I'm looking like, oh, I got this covered, submitted my applications again. And I had continued to do good work over that time. So then instead of doing local volunteering, instantly it became national volunteering.
Okay.
Because of the good work. So if you know that your time is, don't do it, and don't become the over volunteer. I see a lot of over volunteers, and they're not shining in any spot. So not only do you want to give, you want to shine as a giver.
Yeah. And add value.
Add value. If not, say either you can't do it now. And there are people who we've reached out to appoint to different committees, and they were just honest. You know what? Now is not a good look. We out here selling so much real estate, Marky. Now is not a good time. I'm glad you told me the truth. And next year, if your time frees up, let's talk about this position again. Sure.
Speaking of kind of momentum and going forward and postponing things, what's happening with you? Like, what's the next 5 years? What's your, like, I love this big, hairy, audacious goal. Like, what's your thing? Like, what's next? What's coming next?
So when you ask me that question, I'm kind of like, well, retirement. But no, it's not going to be retirement. I'm retiring September the 25th, 2033. For me at this point, it is about repurposing what I've already done, but syndication.
Last year. Pause. You just said something that I need you to make. I want to make sure I heard you. You already got a date?
Yes.
Why did you choose that date?
Oh, well, here's why I choose that date. September the 25th, 2033. So I tell people financially eligible for retirement. Okay. That does not mean that I'm retiring, but I want to have enough money in the bank that if I don't feel like being bothered with nobody, I don't have to. I don't have to, right? I get to roll not out of the bed, but back to the center of the bed. So you probably haven't heard this joke, but I'm married well. And when I say I'm married well, my husband is not rich, but I did marry a locomotive engineer. I am the first wife, and I am vested. On September the 25th, 2033, my first Union Pacific Railroad spousal funded pension check will hit my bank account. I just need you to know that, okay?
We have a date. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I got the date. Because let me tell you why that's the date. That's when my husband wants to retire, right?
Okay.
But because I believe that women should have their own money. Okay. Did I marry well? Yes. Have I put my time in? Yes. And the joke in my house is all I got to do is breathe. Okay. At this point, I don't have to do now. I don't even have to be nice. All I got to do is breathe. And that check is mine. Okay. So I want to live to get my checks. Okay. But no, so what I decided to do was that I needed to be able to match that. So I do have a SEP IRA and a Roth IRA. One is pre-taxed, one is after taxes, because I don't want just my husband's money. I want my own money to match his money, right? And then my husband won't get Social Security, but I'll get Social Security. The reason he won't get Social Security, because they get 80 cents on the dollar of their highest year. Okay. So they've already, the union worked that out. Baby, this Social Security is only going to reduce it. If he took Social Security, it would reduce, his pension check would be reduced by the amount of Social Security check. I get a full Social Security and I'm maxed in that and then that. So that's how I already know what that date is. And I just want to be financially eligible. Not that I got some great plans to retire, but the next 5 years for me is syndication deals. I've had the opportunity to work with the top brands and names in real estate. That would be the National Association of Realtors, Homes.com, Riz Media, now leading real estate companies of the world, and Realogy. And so how do I have more partnership syndication deals? Because my partnerships have worked very well for me. And that's what I'm looking for. Every bit of content. How can I work with bigger organizations to fill the void? Especially what's kind of interesting is I've interviewed with a lot of those companies for positions. They did not hire me for the position, but I have an independent contract agreement with them. And so sometimes people are looking for cultural fit. I'm not a culture fit. I'm a culture add, and they can hire me as an independent. I'm not mad. They can hire me as an independent contractor because it is more beneficial to me, only because I don't need their benefits.
That's a win-win.
It's a win-win because I'm gonna get the most money, and I don't need the benefits because I have the best medical, dental, and vision, and the spousal funded pension plan, and my own, 2 separate retirement accounts. And so when I'm making decisions, I'm looking at what's different for me, right? And I don't want to do what's already been done before, because the more risk involved, the more financially rewarding it can be. And because I have created now 13 streams of income, I can have some risk. And I live well below my means. I'm not, I'm a little plain over here.
I think also what's important about what you said is you don't have to fit in a box, right? I think the point of being an entrepreneur is for you to make it yourself, your own, be authentic, and you get to be authentic to yourself without having to check this corporate structure or et cetera. So that's commendable. I love it. I can't wait to hear the podcast or see you on the radio. I know her. I know her. Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
You'll get there. You have what you say, so it's coming.
Thank you. Thank you. I claim that.
I'm thinking about the 8th question when I was thinking about kind of what the next big thing is. I think everything in the world, every industry is kind of secular, right? And so there's always the next big thing. And so one of my questions to you is, what do you think is going to happen? What's going to be the next big regentrification area? I was reading this book.
What's it called?
I'm going to get up so I can get it.
Okay.
It's called Real Estate is the Goal in the Future. It's by Dempsey Travis.
Oh, I know. Yep. Dempsey Travis had the building on 87th Street, and then he developed those townhouses where Unity Catholic High School was. So let me tell you, for Chicago has what is called the 2040 plan. And it is a book that actually, I want to say it's free because someone gave it to me, that breaks down the plan for the city of Chicago. So here would be an example. When we look at everything that was developed where Ida B. Wells was, right?
Mm-hmm.
That planned development, I was going to buy a townhouse there, I think in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
But that plan was initiated by the late Harold Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to give you a city. I want you to go get the 2040 book from the city of Chicago, because there's already a plan in place for what is to come. Because Harold Washington was the person who orchestrated everything that went on from 35th, right, to 39th Street. It just came to a screeching halt when the real estate crash occurred. But you could see those houses that on 39th Street, but that total development. And now it's coming back, right? There's still some big plots of land that they're going to build something big on, but that plan was initiated by Harold Washington. I will also tell you, my real estate team, we did a presentation for a group of pastors. You want to start thinking about that whole State Street corridor where there's nothing but land. So when I'm talking State Street, I'm talking 63rd Street straight down to 39th Street, right? It's nothing but land. You got to think about transportation system. So not only is it nothing but land, right? You still have 2 trains and a direct route to Midway Airport and to the lakefront.
And
downtown. And to downtown. So I'm going to go with that. And Inglewood has, been coming back since the beginning of time. Inglewood still has blocks at a time of vacant land, especially going down 55th Street. So that'd be Inglewood and West Inglewood. I think the suburbs are going to be a little harder pressed because of water issues. Like every weekend there's something going on, right? The water issues, the real estate taxes, the closing of commercial businesses that help to offset the taxes for the residential real estate. They're going to have to shore up a few more things. But right now, Illinois is flat. So more people are leaving than the births and people which are coming.
Yeah.
And that's an issue that we're going to have to address. But I would look for areas where land acquisition is actually the lowest price, because that's where they can just build. And it's very beneficial to the aldermen for them to build, because now they're able to bring in more real estate taxes, to have more businesses to secure that. But the city of Chicago definitely has a long-term strategic plan. So let me see, 2006, Harold Washington was died or murdered, whichever way you want to look at it, in 1986. And so it was 20 years prior to execution. Okay.
You gave me some good meat. I've been reading this book. I'm an investor, and so I'm gonna check out this 2040 plan, because I got my eyeball on 55th. I put it out there in the ethers. I want about a whole block. I want to.
Oh well, see there. Then I just look. I think I just confirmed that for you.
Just confirmed.
I just said go down to the airport. Because I'm looking at it, and it's like, okay, this looks promising. What I will tell you that's interesting, there's a gentleman, Montgomery. Why can't I think of his first name? It's going to come to me. But his name is Montgomery. He works for SCORE and the SBA. Okay. So Bruce Montgomery. So Bruce came over to our office on North Avenue. And he said, Mark, you know what the difference is from this North Avenue office versus the South Side office? I said, no, tell me. And he was like, when you're coming northwest, you still see mixed use real estate that allows people to live and own a small business to offset their cost, right? He said, when we start looking at the South and the West side of the city of Chicago, especially in Hispanic, African-American communities, we don't have mixed use real estate anymore. It's been torn down. So one thing that Sheila Dantzler, Rugay, her and her husband have done, they built mixed use properties right there at 39th Street between Wabash and Michigan. and they actually built their own building for them where they did nothing but brand new construction for the suites.
Nice. Yeah. That's smart.
Yeah. And so I would also say mixed use would be a great idea as well.
I think many people don't realize that you can, with mixed use, you can get a residential loan as long as it's 51% of residential space and then the commercial. I just taught my cousin that. I'm like, he has a staffing agency. He's like, oh, I want you to help me buy a house. I said, why not buy a mixed use? Like, let me find you a 3 or 4 unit with a storefront. No, cousin, I got it. I said, listen, it's the same requirements. You got to put into the FHA loan. So we're going through that process now. So
203K. I love it.
Mm-hmm. So when you think about, like I heard you say you're thinking about syndication, right? And so I think about, I've watched kind of Marky grow, right? What was it like for you when you're getting your first speaking engagements? Like what steps did you take to kind of build your pipeline? Like you've always been you, like that's the part I like about it. But like when you think about what steps you took personally, what you had to overcome and kind of get to what we see now, that's normally a road. What did that look like?
So my background, I'm taking you back to the 90s. I actually worked for Northwestern Business College, fresh out of grad school, because while in grad school, I worked for Chicago Public Schools as a second grade ESEA teacher. So 93 to 96, I was in the classroom, second graders, sub in high school, all of that. I knew when I got my master's degree, I was not going to be bothered with nobody else's children. Now, let me tell you why. I love children. I don't like their parents. All right. Yeah. Like my parent involvement level was different than a lot of my students at a Bond Elementary, at a Inglewood. It was just a little different. Mm-hmm. And so I realized early, like, I'm going to choke somebody mama. So I probably shouldn't do it. Right. And they would show up and like, well, what suburb you from? And I'm like, I'm off of 59th and State, boo. Let's not do this. And so when I make it to teach on a collegiate level, I quickly realized I don't have any real world experience. Right. And I'm only teaching theory. And I'm like, me being honest, Mark, you need to go get yourself some real world experience. So when I come into real estate, Frank Williams, when he's telling me what to do to come out for the board, here's his full statement. And baby Dow, you need to become a licensed, pre-licensed instructor and continuing education instructor, because they can't act like they don't know your name, because you will always be at the front of the room.
Wow, that's powerful.
So I do what Frank Williams tells me to do, since he's been teaching longer than I am old. Okay. And when I got my 2 licenses, I called Frank. It was in the month. I actually, was it 2006, 2007? I started teaching. I was pregnant. So he calls Deb Lopes, who was the director of education at the Chicago Association of Realtors. She had been there 20 some years. Mm-hmm. And he tells her straight up, he said, hey, Deb, I want you to give baby Dal a chance. Now, let me be clear. I don't know if she can teach or not, but I want you to put on the schedule and give her a class. Mm-hmm. My very first class was at Car South. Mm-hmm. John Kamisic there. Alice Jeanette. I mean, let me just go through this list of people who've been selling real estate as long as I am old. And they show up and I'm like, this is my first class. Oh, sweet Jesus, why are you doing this to me? My first class was for me, the most anxiety I ever had, right? And when we get done with class, they like writing. I can see the reviews. They like, Marky, girl, you get it, right? And I'm like, this is my first class. And they was like, girl, you are lying. You meant to do this. Mm-hmm. So Deb consistently kept putting me on a schedule. And within a year, she reached out to me to write a short sale class. And here's where the power of friends are. I had entered into an agreement with Carr to write a short sales, the result of foreclosures. Pashan Julian, who's also a fellow real estate educator, he does a lot of pre-license courses. He said, Marky, I wouldn't do that. I said, why not? He said, go back, tell them you want to keep the class, but you will teach it for them. And the first time I taught that class, I want to say I made 3 times more than what they were going to pay me to write it for them.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
I ended up turning that class into a designation, the Accredited Distressed Property Representative. We put 500 people through that class at $199? 5,000 people through that class. 5,000 people at $199. And Mary Richardson, who's one of my mentors, she had walked me through everything I needed for that class. And so when I think about real estate education, I always follow trends. I also realized early, no one was going to give me, Frank walked me in, but nobody else was giving up an opportunity.
Absolutely.
When foreclosures and short sales hit, everybody could teach foreclosures and short sales. Right. So there was some competition, even though I had my own designation. At the moment I started teaching social media and technology, I had less competition. So what I tell my peers now, I can teach everything they teach. They can't teach what I teach.
Yeah.
So you want to find that one thing that will differentiate you from everybody else and own that space. And yeah, I don't have a lot of competition. And here's the next thing. I might have some competition when it comes to the subject. However, not when it comes to the branding, the marketing, none of that. I don't really feel like I have a lot of competition. So I'm often in rooms where I'm the only one.
Okay. I hear you.
From the branding, from the marketing, from I go outside our industry to take my classes. If I'm going to teach tech, I'm going to the tech industry to learn tech. But when doing this, because I think you said, how did you secure your first speaking engagement? I told you, Frank. How steps did you take to build the pipeline of upcoming events? I do a lot of marketing. So at that time, I was doing a lot of direct mail and asking for referrals. Right now, there are a handful of events that I can attend every year that I'm going to get my book of business from. And it's not even attending those events. It's also making sure that I'm in the right room at the event. Carrie and them joke about me. I am very strategic. I sit back, I watch behavior, I ask questions, and I don't have any problems asking for what it is that I want or how to do it, right? But I don't just ask questions. I like to come from contribution first. So let me give you an example, even though this wasn't strategic on my behalf. I do the Nashville Association of Realtors conference. What I did not know was that their communication director is actually the chair of the communication committee for all communication directors for every realtor association in the country.
Wow.
But when I go to work, I'm going and I want to come high energy. I want to shine. I want to show out. I want to teach you something new. So energy is at the very top of the list of why people hire me. He says, hey, Marky, when we're at the Realtor Conference and Expo, can you come and do a program just for communication for COM?
Of course.
Yeah, right. So I had set a goal for the Realtor Conference and Expo. How many jobs would I book out of that conference? I booked all of my jobs before the conference started because I was willing to go teach a class for communication.
That's dope.
And but now that I understand that process, I'm willing to do a webinar here, to do something over there, when they can position me in front of a lot of people who make the decision on whether or not I'll have the opportunity to be in a room. And I'm going to out energy everybody in the room.
Yeah.
Now, here's where what gets interesting, based on the post that I made today. In the past, for the past 10 years, I had plantar fasciitis, venous deficiency, and lipedema. Now, the lipedema and the venous deficiency, which is vein disease, just progressively got worse, right? Physically, I don't even know how I was doing my job. because for me, it was mind over matter, right? I'm going to show up. I'm going to still out energy you. I don't know what they're going to do with me come the summertime because I don't have plantar fasciitis.
You looking good. I
got this venous deficiency taken care of, and I got 2 more procedures for lipedema. Baby, I'm going to be standing there and I'm not going to be in chronic pain. Oh, y'all might not be. You want to know what's going to happen.
I'm excited.
But I didn't realize the true importance of energy and how many people lack bringing energy to the situation.
The monotone classes that people are like sleeping in. Like, what are they talking about? Yeah. I blank over. Like, yeah.
If it's pain, look, I don't want to be in pain teaching. Right. Now, I mean, besides the physical pain, right? Mentally, a mental pain, boring myself, like, don't want to do that. And so for me, it's one, I want to have fun.
Yeah.
And I want to have a good time and I want to smile and I want to add a joke, but I want it to be of value. And from the education standpoint, I'm always thinking about what do they need because I'm them. What do they need? I'm them. And I don't want somebody to waste my time, let alone waste their time. So I think that some of the things I bring, people can't duplicate because that to keep that level, people say, how do you keep the energy all day? I was born this way. Like I've been silly my whole life.
Yes, be you.
And to be able to do that at work, some people tell me, well, everybody can't do what Marky do. Yes, you can. If you tell yourself you can, you sure enough can.
Do wild things. So a man thinketh he is. Yes.
I said, so I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't speak that over my business, right? But I'm consistently marketing. I have 2 emails that are getting ready to go out at the beginning of the year. The Canva class that we've been doing, I think every association needs that class. I'm doing a full-fledged marketing campaign on that. To education directors, to COM, and to the CEO of Realtor Association. So to answer that question in more detail, I'm clear who does the hiring. When I'm out, I need to put myself in front of people who hire. Not only do I need to be in front of those who hire, CEOs, education directors, communication, VP business development for banks, title companies, and things of that nature. I need to understand what their strategic plan is. What is a mandate that they must meet, either from the National Association of Realtors or from the state?
That's good.
My courses meet their mandate. The course is not about me and what I think Marky wants, right? The course is, hey, I can write you, social media, real estate, social media ethics or whatever. No. The unethical and unlawful use of media, right? That is a NAR ethics qualifying 3-hour continuing education course. I hit all kind of mandates with that course. Oh, they need to have technology. Can we get state approval for technology? Ooh, they love that. Come on through, right? And so I'm looking at my little inside secret. I look at the National Association of Realtors strat plan that must be implemented by every single real estate association. And I write my course to meet the mandates that are placed upon the associations.
That's smart. Now thinking about you've dropped a lot of nuggets. I got a whole page of notes, right? But something you said triggered me, right? So I'm a single mom, 3 babies. I own real estate. I have a couple streams of income, not 13. How the heck do you get 13 streams of income?
So let me say this. I still get checks from Keller Williams and I'm grandfathered in. I get checks from Exit, 2 different sources of income from Exit. So 3 of those are just from how I affiliated myself. And I was strategic about how I was affiliating myself. The publishing, the merchandise, the courses, the 6 figures in 12 months, the partnership agreements is kind of how I got there. Everything is in the world of real estate.
Okay.
Everything. Everything comes to one account. And it just seems like it just keeps on building, right? So to me, it was about not only real estate education, but how do you continuously market as a real estate agent? And what are the other sources of income that one could bring in?
Sure.
The publishing came about because as a speaker, if you're an author and you're a best-selling author, you could actually charge more money.
Okay.
So I was able to get this. I paid a publisher for my first book. Within 30 days of publishing that first book, I was able to increase my speaking fees by 40%. I didn't write the book to make money on the book, even though I make money on the book. I wrote the book in order to be able to increase my speaking fees. So
you began with the end in mind. I hear you.
Yeah, with the end in mind. And here's all of this is a part of my legacy. So all of this income, whether it's Keller Williams, whether it's Exit, all of that, my family inherits.
Sure.
You know, the book, the publishing, the merchandise, everything they get to inherit.
That's good. I've learned so much.
Well, let me come back one more time because I didn't. Let me say this. And a lot of this was birthed out of the pandemic. Okay. So like the Keller Williams, that's date back to 2006, the Exit date back a couple of years. So probably pre-pandemic, 5 of these things did not exist. I knew that I was going to go back on the road. I needed to be able to take my business with me no matter where I went.
Sure.
That's why a lot of what I do is a print on demand, but some type of on demand that if I can pop my computer up, I can do my job and work.
I understand.
Because I never wanted to be in a position that I could not do it. So I looked at other streams of income that would not tie me to the house. Okay, there you go.
I hear you. So those courses like 6 and 12 and the master classes and things of that nature that I see that I'm enrolled in, that I learned so much from, I get it. It makes total sense. And I'm excited. I don't know. I see some people on the line, but I'm excited to renew again, right?
Well,
so normally when you think about you joining this club, I was new. I watched you, but I didn't know what was going to come of it. I have learned so much like that. Repository of information, me building a team, and I can send my teammates like, hey, look at this video from Marky, try this. And I can see the results. I'm really grateful.
Thank you. Now you did ask what was going to come in 2022. And so some of the things that are going to come in 2022 are going to be the webinar funnels and how to build out an evergreen webinar. So Skylar we did a master class with Sam Sharp, able to take that video, put it back into a funnel, and people sign up to rewatch it. Now you have collected all their information, but all you did was repurpose the webinar. So people wanted to know, how do we do that webinar in the first place? And then how do we take this webinar, turn it into a evergreen webinar sales funnel?
And they're paying you per click, like they're paying you to just join it?
No, they're not paying us. So think about, I'm going to tell y'all this first one. I know that I'm almost sure Rosie and them are going to get this $40,000 grant program again. I'm taking that program, and on Facebook, if people want to get the information, they click on the link to get the information, but the video will be in replay on Facebook. But if they want to, we can direct you to the landing page. And when you give us the information, the next page that you click to is the video replay, the resources, Rosie, all the different lenders that you should use, all of it. But that now becomes a buyer evergreen video sales funnel.
Yes.
You record it one time, but you repurpose that video that when they click, they go to the next page and the video starts playing for them with all of the different resources. So one thing, it was people asked for it, they wanted it. But once you do that as a buyer funnel, you can do a buyer funnel, a seller's funnel. You can do a funnel on anything, right? You just record that initial video. So we're going to organize the webinar, the key participants, the timeline, calendar, and checklist. We are going to walk through all of the video equipment as a checklist. I provided it, but people wanted me to go through all of the videos. We're going to synchronize the video process to create the webinars, whether the equipment, the Zoom, the Restream.io, Facebook Live, Reels. We're then going to create that evergreen webinar system that is the landing page, the autoresponder, the video page, and a follow-up email sequence. 20 ways to repurpose the video content, because I'm always talking about repurposing, but what are going to be the most viable ways? I would say right now, Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels, because they're willing to pay you up to $35,000 per month. We are rolling out our practice incubator where we set up a totally different page that people can come post to see what the posts look like, because a lot of people are fearful of just posting to the public, don't know how it's going to look. So we're going to have our own practice incubator. We're also rolling out our regional face-to-face trainings, Atlanta, the DMV area, Chicago, and Las Vegas.
Okay.
When we roll out the regional face-to-face, we're going to add a regional mastermind at each of the regional face-to-face so that people can collaborate more on a regional level as opposed to a national level.
What's the regional face-to-face going to be talking about? What do you mean when you say that?
So we're going to do a regional face-to-face training. In the regional face-to-face training, it could be any subject. We haven't just defined that. But it's an opportunity for us to meet face-to-face and to have a live training. So I'm thinking that I'm going to do some type of signature course that won't be online, that you got to come to the regional event to get the course. And it might be, it might not be, it might be the Modern Real Estate Professional's Guide to Success, because I have a 6 and a 3-hour course based on that. We did a lot with the Canva tools and micro learning, but I'm going to break that out even more. We did LinkedIn. People are asking for Evernote, business plan and time management, but people really want timelines. A lot of people requested timelines.
You said checklist. You mean when you say checklist, you talking about the workflow, or what's the
checklist? The workflow, but they want the timeline, like from start to finish, how much time should this take? So those are some of the things that we're doing this year.
2022 is going to be a good year.
It is going to be a good year. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Well, I think you've answered literally every one of my questions. I've learned. If you can see this sheet of paper, I got so many notes on here. I'm excited. I remember when I first joined and I was like, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. You like, I don't know how to be, you know, my aunt. I don't know if you remember Aunt Dawn.
Yes.
And so Auntie was like, reach out to Marky. I said, Marky swap. She ain't got the patience. She don't got the time. But you have been extraordinary. I'm so grateful.
And I am patient. And I have to tell people, my time might be short, but when I talk to people, I'm not a rusher. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't like to be rushed. So I don't rush people. So my patience are very long. It's just that squeezing it in these little buckets of time, right? It's like, I don't know if I could do that, but you have been fabulous. Congratulations on all your success. 2022, it will continue to get better. Let me tell everybody why it's going to get better. We have a lot of people who entered this market that are not going to stick around. We're over 1.56 million Realtor members. We have a lot of PPP people. We have a lot of STEMI check people. And they're not going to be here. So I wouldn't care how many people we got, because I do sit on the board of multiple organizations and work for so many organizations. Everyone is anticipating we will not have this many members. One thing, too, we're going to focus on in 2022, which we did actually in Operation I've Got Houses for Sale. I need everybody to know how to execute an exclusive buyer representation agreement with an offer of compensation, because the Department of Justice is going to change our industry. That'll be first. The second thing, we might have another change where they do not want us to hold the status of independent contractor. There is a workaround, okay, where in order to remain an independent contractor, we would have to have that solely owned corporation for the purposes of receiving compensation, because too many of us don't pay taxes. I just need to be clear with
I hear you.
And so those are 2 additional subjects that we're going to add, because I see them as being the biggest threats. And I would not want anyone in close proximity to, when it happened, be like, I didn't know nothing about that. Then that means to me, I didn't do what I was supposed to do, because I definitely view them as threats, but I don't think that they're threats that will hinder our business if We are proactive instead of reactive.
That's good meat. That exclusive buyer representation forms. Natalie Carpenter of Coldwell Banker is one of my mentors. And that was one of the things she told me right away, like, make sure you do this form, fill that out. That dictates your compensation. And it's paid off tremendously. So I'm glad to hear that it actually means something. And every transaction, it should be used, in my opinion.
So here's what I want you to think about when I say the Department of Justice. When you come to the MLS, and there's no longer offer of compensation, how are you going to be compensated?
Yeah, I have to start it.
And I want us to stop saying our services don't cost anything, because the buyer funds the real estate transaction. It costs them something. And the better the job we do, the less money it should cost them.
Yes.